Hello, and welcome to this impressions video I'm gonna try and do um, of Zelda Breath of the Wild. I've put in a good probably 20 to 25 hours of this into this game, and I'm very impressed by it. I'm a huge Zelda fan, so I went in expecting just perfection, or hoping for perfection, I guess I should say. And I was kind of surprised how blown away I was just from the beginning. I mean, I'm one dungeon in out of the four. I've hit probably 40 to 45 shrines, and I haven't found the Master Sword, a Hylian shield, or anything of importance. And yet I still can't stop playing this game. Like, I can't stop exploring. I can't stop figuring everything out, and it's one of those games where you're mesmerized by it. You're just trying to figure out what the hell's going on in the world and the lore, and it's just like it hooks you. It's been able to like grab ideas from more modern games like like Dark Souls and even Skyrim with exploration. Like all this, they like took all this stuff that they've seen in other games, but they put their Zelda spin on it, which is super impressive. One of the things I like so much about this game is the fact that like they had such a crazy amount of attention to detail. I've played other games that have it, like Uncharted 4. When Nathan Drake had a sniper rifle on his back and he'd get into the Jeep, you'd see him take it off, put it in the middle of the Jeep, and then he'd get in. And it was just like it's little things like that that make you feel like this world is real. Like this is a real person, even though you know deep down you know it's not. But like with Zelda, I feel like they went beyond that. Like just the smallest details, like running around naked, how people react to you, how they react completely different than if you're clothed, or lightning. The fact that a lightning storm will happen, and as long as you're wearing metal, you are prone to get struck by lightning and killed. And to avoid that, you either have to hide under cover, or you have to. What I did was I stripped any type of metal I had, so armor, sword, bow, everything that was somewhat metal related was stripped. Like it's such a cool like wow moment. I didn't expect it, and I was fighting enemies, and all of a sudden the lightning storm happened, and I'm in the middle of fighting these enemies, and all of a sudden I see like lightning, like zaps coming at me. I'm like, what the hell's going on? And then all of a sudden out of nowhere, this big lightning bolt hits me, fries me and everyone around me. It was just like, damn, they really went into like so many little details how people reacted, and it feels so much like a living world. I'm just mesmerized by it. It's such a beautiful game too. It's kind of got like a more cartoony look. It's reminiscent of Wind Waker, but a little bit more detailed, I guess. It's one of those games where you just get into it. It's just like you're so focused on what's going on, and you completely forget everything around you. I do have a couple complaints. A lot of people had issues with weapon durability. That's a new thing. I mean, the first probably like 10 to 15 hours of the game, you will spend killing an enemy and immediately picking up their weapon because yours broke in the process of killing them. And it's like, it's a nuisance, but it actually... I was surprised how later on it didn't bother me as much as I thought. Like originally I was playing, I was like, this is ridiculous. I can't fight anything. I'm mostly running. As I got further in and I got better weapons, or I just learned that okay, killing every single guy is not as important like in other Zelda games. It's kind of like, okay, this is how the world works, and it just makes sense. It's kind of hard to something you just have to experience. Like it can be annoying. Like don't get me wrong, but it does add a nice variety in the fact that you kind of are forced to use other types of weapons, which is another thing that's pretty new, is the variety of weapons. It's not just like, oh, here's a sword, here's a larger sword, and then, oh, hey, it's a master sword. I mean, they've got spears, they've got heavy swords where you have to use two hands, they've got clubs, they got a metal boomerang. I mean, there's a great variety of weapons to use and how they can be used more effectively based on the enemy you're fighting. Combat was never one of my main focuses in this game. Like in past all this, that was like one of my favorite things to do. It was fighting enemies, fighting bosses, and doing that. But this game, it's such a focus on exploration. Just from the get-go, the game's like, it doesn't really hold your hand. It's like, hey, you can go here, but then there's so many things that can distract you, and you're like, oh, what's over here? What's over here? Oh, there's a cottage here that has a diary about some cook recipe, and, you know, some, like, recipe that this guy forgot, and you're like, okay, well, let's go figure out this recipe, and then you find out later that it was actually something you needed. And one of the reasons I've only done one dungeon is because I've just been exploring. Like, nothing I've done so far has felt like it was a waste either, and that's I think one of the incredible things. Some games get exploration, they do exploration well, where it's like, oh hey, I'm exploring this world, it's cool, it's a cool design, you know, artwork's great, like the level design, world design is all great. This game, it takes it one step further. Not only is all that great, exploring feels like it benefits you, and not just in progressing the game, and just how you learn about the world, like how you learn how to survive later on. It does it in such a nice, like, in subtle ways. Like, even at the very, very beginning of the game, it doesn't have these long tutorials like, hey, this is how you do this. And, you know, with the stamina bar, it's like, hey, you wake up, you have to climb this little tiny hill, and it's like, oh, I got a stamina bar, that's how it works. And then you're off into the game. You're off into exploring this world. Even the first area, you're kind of roped off from being able to explore the whole world because you have to do some things. But it's all done in a way to teach you a little bit about the world and about the different things you can do. Then it's like, here, go have fun, explore, do what you want to do. Yes, Ganon's there if you want to go fight him, but you should explore and learn. Like, the game even tells you multiple times, you can go fight him if you want. But let's I would recommend not leveling up, but like exploring and trying to figure things out first. And then you start to explore and you find shrines, and the shrines are just so well made. It's very reminiscent of how older Zelda dungeons were. You had to think, you had to do puzzles, you had to do this, and that's what the shrines are. And so it made me feel better. Like, when I finally did do my first dungeon, I was actually kind of disappointed in it, because like Ocarina of Time is one of my favorite Zeldas, and I always loved the dungeon in there. Like, that was what I strived for in the game. It wasn't exploring, it was doing the dungeons. But in this game, it's the exact opposite. Don't get me wrong, the dungeon was cool, really well designed, but it just felt kind of a letdown. It was really easy, it didn't take me very long. And then you fight the boss at the end, and it's like, okay, that was cool. But the puzzles weren't super engaging, and it was just kind of a disappointment, which I was bummed about. But in the grand scheme of things, the fact that the shrines make up for the lack of how well the dungeons are made, and the fact that there's like 120 of them is great. Like, I've got plenty of dungeon type gameplay left, and then not to mention just exploring. Like, the way the world's built, you'll just be running around exploring, then bam, all of a sudden a mini boss comes out of nowhere. And it's like, I know games have done that before. It feels so strange in a Zelda game because everything's usually pretty scripted in terms of what happens, and this game's so open in terms of, you go do what you want. You want to climb that thing, you can climb it. But you gotta make sure you manage your stamina well, but you can climb it. You see that thing off the distance, you can go explore. And which is funny, because I remember hearing the devs talk about that and being like, hey, if you see it, you can go do it. And I was like, oh yeah, that's a bunch of horseshit. Like, there's no way you see something in the distance and go. Usually like games have limits, and it's like, even though there's ends of the map, I've never gotten to a spot where it's like, I want to see if I can get up there, and I can't. Like, there's these mountains, and even if I don't run out of stamina, there's ways around the mountain, ways to climb up, way to get from a different mountain and glide down to that mountain. And it's just like, it's such a well-designed world that I can't stop wanting to come back to it. And it's just such a beautiful game, and it's so like well put together. I'll waste an hour literally just exploring, just looking for shrines. I'll waste a good 20-30 minutes just trying to figure out how to climb up a stupid mountain, knowing that there's probably nothing on top, to find out, oh hey, there was a secret up there. Oh, and then I can see, and there's 4 or 5 shrines. I tag them on my map, and then I jump off the mountain, I glide down, and I start going after them, and before I know it, oh hey, there's a cool looking horse, I'm gonna go tame it. And it's like, before I know it, I've been playing 3 or 4 hours, and I never got to those 4 shrines I pinned. But I never felt like I wasted my time. Like, usually in open world games, I'll go exploring, and it's like, well, shit, now I feel like I wasted my time. But in this game, it doesn't feel like that. And one of the things I really like about it is in most games where it's your objective is to go kill the final boss, or you know, in Fallout 4 it was to find your find your son. They have this like sense of urgency, so when you are wasting time doing stuff, I feel like that's always in the back of my mind, like, well, okay, this isn't realistic because there's all these people over there, and like I need to go find, if this character was real, I need to go find this. But the thing is, in this game, it doesn't feel that way. Like it feels like the game was set up for you to explore without feeling that urgency to go do it, because Ganon's always going to be there to fight, but the world's not getting worse because it's the way that they set up the story is the world's already been basically destroyed. It's the end of the world's happened. You're trying to get it back to how it was, and I love that because it really just opens it up for you to do what you want, and you don't feel like you're pushed to do this thing or pushed to do that thing, and you'll find a side mission where you have to collect freaking 10 little crickets, and it's like, oh, I can waste my time doing that to help this guy be able to talk to this girl because she likes crickets, which she really doesn't, but he thinks that. And I really appreciated the fact that they don't really push you one way or the other. Like in the beginning, I will take that back. In the beginning, they kind of do, because you're stuck on the plateau, but it literally is set up that way to where it teaches you how to explore, what you need to worry about, cooking food, depending on your environment can hurt you. If you go into the mountains where it's all snowy and you don't have the right protection, or you haven't cooked a certain meal that's going to keep you warm, you're gonna die because your Link can't handle the cold. But if you get the right clothing or you get that thing, you can go explore in that area. It never really feels like the game's limited to you can't go here if you don't want to because you're not high enough level. Like you can outrun the enemies, or you can explore. Like I've never gotten to a point where it's like, oh, I can't explore this area because I am not I don't have a high enough weapon. Everything is set up to a certain way. Yes, there are high-level enemies in certain areas, but you can still explore the area because you can either sneak around them, that's another thing I forgot to mention, is they added stealth to this game. And it's actually pretty well done. I was very surprised. Like, I was not expecting so many little things added to this game that doesn't sound like it would work with a Zelda game that absolutely 100% work with this game, and they make the game better. Like stealth, you can just sneak past the enemies, sneak up on them, get a nice attack in, or you can sneak up onto their base. Like there's some that hobgoblins or whatever they're called are in this like little cave that looks like a skull, and through one of the eyes of the skull you can see this lantern going, and oh, look at that, there's explosive all around them. So you shoot the lantern, it falls down and it kills them all because of the explosion. It's such a nice variety on how you can accomplish your tasks. Like even in the shrines, like I'm pretty sure the devs had a certain way, like they want you to do it this way, but because of the tools you've got, you can do it different ways. Like there was some where there was one where you were supposed to stop time, and this ball was stop the time on this one ball, and it was supposed to roll down this hill, and you're supposed to get it over these obstacles. Well, at the end, I messed up, and I couldn't, and I was able to get it to stay on this platform, and I was able to stop time and hit it because to go into the point it was supposed to go. And it was just one of the things you learn over time, like, oh, if you stop time, you can then hit this ball multiple times, and it creates momentum for it, so when the time starts, it goes flying away. And it was just like, no, I doubt they meant it for that, but because of the stuff you can do, you can tackle things almost any way you want to. I just keep being amazed by how fun this game is. I keep feeling like I just am repeating myself. Like, this game's awesome. This game's amazing. This game's this. It's a 10. It's a this. But it's just it's a once in a lifetime game. You'll never experience a game like this again. Like, yes, I'm sure they'll make another Zelda game that's very similar, that has these mechanics, because they're like, oh, hey, this really worked. But it's still not going to have that same feeling as this game did, because it took a game that was so beloved, all the way up until like Twilight Princess is when the Zelda started kind of lacking. Like, they're still good games, but they didn't have that sense of awe that the other games did. And this game like took that and was like, okay, we really need to ramp this up, and they completely changed it into this well polished game that like takes the formula of Zelda but then expands on it and takes it into to areas it's never been. And I can't wait to get through this game, and it's going to take me forever because I can't stop exploring. So that's it for right now. That's my first impressions after it. I might do another one of these when I finish the game, see if it's changed. I will mention the game, like I said, it is really pretty on the Switch. I've been playing it on the Switch. I have noticed a little bit of frame rate issues when it's docked, but nothing major, nothing to where I'm like, oh shit, this is not good. So yeah, anyways, like and subscribe and all that shit.